Okay, so that was on Battleship Hill by PJ Harvey. So this is one of three songs from the album, which is called Let England Shake, which is in some way related to the 1915 battle for Gallipoli, an attempt to seize Constantinople, which wiped out much of the Australian and New Zealand army. And she kind of describes the bloody battlefield. One of the verses that I quite like is jagged mountains jutting out, cracked like teeth in a rotten mouth. And I quite like this idea of a dead landscape signified by rocks, by jagged rocks. I think that's quite strong imagery. But one of the things she repeats a lot throughout the song is the phrase "cruel nature has won again." And of that she says, throughout the songs on the album, nature plays a great role. I'd chosen to look at a lot of ancient folk songs from all over the world, songs from hundreds of years ago passed down the line in Cambodia, Ireland, Vietnam, and Russia. And a theme which comes through in all of these countries' music is your relationship to the land. The lyric, I hear the winds say cruel nature has won again, captures that feeling. No matter what happens to us, nature will always be there, which is comforting but also quite brutal.
I think that is a very cool quote. Yeah, and it's true. I think it kind of makes you step back a little bit from the squabbles and skirmishes of human greed or anger and stuff like that. And it's like ultimately everybody loses here, you know?
Yeah.
And the only person that is comes out maybe unscathed or winning is Mother Nature, which is kind of a little bit of a depressing thought, but perhaps not a misguided one. So
I think it's
interesting.
Yeah. In a way, I kind of like the idea that nature will probably, in our petty squabbles, nature will probably always win, or
Prevail.
nature will prevail. And I guess when a lot of our discussions surrounding nature are to do with global warming, you have this very foreboding sense that we might be destroying our planet irreparably. And it's not a question of might. We're destroying it for ourselves. I think if we were to go into all-out nuclear Armageddon, it would be a different story. But as it stands, I think at some point the world will become uninhabitable for us. But then that is because of nature, not in spite of it. Through unnatural processes, we will create natural conditions for our own downfall. Things like tsunamis and floods, droughts, extreme weather, whether that's just in Europe with more extreme summers and winters, or like earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, all of these things. That's nature basically beating the human race to a pulp. And that is as a result of our actions in polluting our planet.
Yeah, we're like slowly narrowing down the scope of species which can live within the conditions that we're manufacturing. And we're doing it so quickly that even we kind of fall outside of that scope eventually. And life will persist without us, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that we can, well, unless we try really hard, that we can ever destroy all life on Earth and kind of take it with us, you know, in one final blow.
I think life will always find a way, even in the smallest way possible.
The problem is just we reduce millions of years of evolution and diversity, and we kind of just take ourselves back.
For short-term profit.
Yeah, well,
for money, which is not real.
As long as some fat tycoon gets to have a Wagyu steak every morning or something, but
buy his daughter a nice new yacht to go with the other
sail
yachts.
those tsunami waves. All right, come on. We need some positive historical backstories. All right, now everyone try and think of a positive war that we've had.
A positive war? What is some like
we can crop
fun?
That out.
What is a fun historical thing? This is my favorite war because it was just everyone
holding hands. We could say things
hands.
like the invention of electricity, the a reduction in infant mortality because of the introduction of hand cleaning into maternity wards.
I keep hearing about that all the time. I know the story, obviously, that like I can't remember the name of the physician who introduced it, but he was considered crazy.
But why
Like,
do
they
you
locked
keep
him up in
hearing
an
about
asylum.
it? Like,
My TikTok For You page is weird.
it's just everyone, what even happens on TikTok? We just keep getting reminded of hand washing procedures of bleach back in the like. I can't even tell. That's
I think
bad. I
it's
can't even
a
tell you
lot
what
of it is to
time
do with
period it
in
was, but-
relation to the state of modern medicine as it is. Like, obviously, the human race has made a lot of advances in medical technology, and what we can do now is frankly incredible compared to what we couldn't do even 5 years ago. With the popularization of mRNA technology and the vaccines, we now have a malaria vaccine, which is incredible. But I think a lot of when the discussion of the introduction of hand washing and a lowered infant mortality rate and mortality rate of those who would give birth in hospitals, it's to do with the fact that a lot of people, specifically women, people of color, and members of the LGBT community, when they seek out medical advice, especially from general physicians, general practitioners, they're often met with a lot of skepticism, a lot of doubt, a lot of gaslighting, just complete dismissal of their problems, and that it's related back to the story of hand washing because it was objective. There was an objective correlation and causation between hand washing and the lowering of infant mortality rates after being born. And I guess it's just the frustrating parallel between how far we've come and how far we haven't come. People have made such great advancements in, like, across the board in anything sort of medical related, but there's still that tendency to dismiss people's problems. It still causes people a lot of pain.
I mean, it's difficult. There's constraints on the current medical system in every country, which limits the quality of care which can be given. And I mean, I don't know enough about how that reflects on each perhaps demographic, with some people being treated worse than others, etc. But what I did look up is his name was Ignaz Semmelweis. And it was the 1800s. I should have gone with my gut on that one. But yeah, something I always think of as well is like, when did the Industrial Revolution happen? Within the last 120 years, right?
Yeah.
It happened at the start of the 20th century, I think. Or maybe, no, towards the end of the 19th century, start of the 20th century. Like,
Yeah.
The technology we have now, like, look at, like, most people are probably listening to this from like a speaker or a smartphone, a laptop or something like that. And we are like, look at how small hard drives have become, that you can have a 1 terabyte hard drive about the size of your credit card. And all of this, and we think we are so advanced, you know. We've now got rockets which can go into space and come back down to Earth and kind of land themselves, and all these self-driving cars and stuff like that. This has only been in like 120 years of innovation, and like we are not that advanced. Like, we think that we are on like I think our perception of our own advancement is far beyond where we actually lie. Given like all of the problems that we've made for ourselves with the society, that trying to sustain the lifestyle that we currently have and stuff like that, we are so relatively primitive, and it's so evident in the fact that our bodies can't, or are not well adapted to the lifestyle that we're living in. You know, like this current technological boom has happened so quickly for us, but still, I really don't think we're as advanced as we think we are.
I mean,
We
we're not.
are
Yeah.
finding really long tangents from these songs, and I'm loving it, not gonna lie, but
It's very interesting discussions.
yeah, for sure. And I feel like I'm kind of happy this is a podcast, so that no one more educated than me can fire back and start questioning me about my half-baked ideas.
Thank God I'm a dum-dum. Otherwise, I would be schooling you.
I mean, there's probably someone sat at home, it's like, oh, this guy, he's got all the wrong goddamn ideas. I hate him so much. And I'm just like, well, I'm a recording, so
I am
can't
not
have an
real.
argument with me. Yeah. How do you? Oh, that's a tough one.
Ceci n'est pas un Kyle.
Turing test. Maybe we're just AIs, and we're currently running a
I think I
podcast
would prefer that.
based on neural networks. We've downloaded a bunch of podcasts, come up with an idea for a podcast show, and we're currently generating these audio files just based on saved audio files that we've downloaded online.
I predict that's going to happen.
I think that will happen within the next 50 years. I think
I
we'll
think
start
it could
with,
even happen sooner, and I think it's going to be kind of I think it could go either one of two ways. Either it'll generate interest in the scientific community and nowhere else, and everyone will know going into it what it is, and they'll be like, oh, I can tell, like I can pick it up. She did not pass the Turing test. Or it's going to be this massive scandal where it's like this podcast gets really popular, maybe artificially because it's pushed by the algorithm so much, and nobody knows, and then suddenly an announcement comes out and it's like, these are neural networks, they're not real people, and there's going to be like this huge weird uproar.
I'm not sure because I think these kind of AIs and stuff will be quite heavily regulated, so I'm not sure how much will be kind of used for personal or even commercial use.
Oh no, I mean, but, like I think if it happens like that, it'll be a scandal. Like people will get fired.
I get what
like
you're saying.
All sorts of shit will happen behind the scenes as well as like in the public, like in the media, which I think would be really interesting to see. But I think ultimately it would probably not be a good thing, if you know what I mean.
I think deep fake technology is already quite advanced, or is like quite capable of deceiving the average person, I think.
Yeah.
I really don't think it would be too much effort. If you have something like 20 minutes of recording of a person talking, you pretty much have all of the sounds which they can make in their language, I'm pretty sure. And so I think once you kind of incorporate, like, so that's probably the easiest aspect of it. The next will be kind of like just the computer deciding what to make the person say. So I think kind of with this deep fake technology, if you just take, say, your favorite podcaster or your favorite celebrity or something like that, there'll be softwares which can kind of piece these sound clips together and then kind of build some sort of structure around of what to make them talk about, and you'll be having kind of these podcasts maybe even tailored to you just from your favorite celebrities, but they're not, or even from your friends and stuff like that, but they sound completely like that person, but the content is completely artificially generated. And we'll probably even have it where we have like dead celebrities even, like you ever wanted to know what Muhammad Ali sounded like on a podcast, you could have it, there's enough audio recording of him out there already. So yeah, I see that happening in the next 50 years because I think I think the market for podcasting is probably going to become a little bit niche in some regards, and you can start getting tailored podcasts, which I think would be really interesting. Prospects. I mean, there is the positive aspect of a kind of, even though the overall satisfaction of a singular podcast to many people might be lower, I think there's a pull in which there's a community of people all listening to the same thing, and so you can engage in like conversation related to that podcast, whereas if everybody received like an individualized podcast, then there wouldn't be much to talk with other people about.
Yeah.
But anyway, I rambled for a really long time there, but anyways, that's the future of podcasting, or maybe it's the present, and that's what you're listening to right now. This is the experimental. This is the pilot.
This is the thing that's going to become a massive media scandal in a few months.
Yeah. Oh, God. Start having an identity crisis. And they're real. I don't know anymore. Anyway, on that cheery note, next song?
Yeah, so the next song I want to play is by Julia Holter, and it is called Underneath the Moon.